And welcome to this week's Roll of 24 for the week of 1 June through 6 June 2026. And in this week's Roll of 24, we have a variety or an eclectic mix of photographs that were taken throughout the week. Charlie and I went to the dog park, and Charlie got to meet a new dog this is Holly, and very fluffy dog with really vibrant blue eyes. We also had an opportunity for this week's purposeful picture, which was angles. And so I'll explain more about the angles as the presentation goes along. And on one day, Charlie and I went out, and there is a flower garden near our residence, and we went out for the intended purpose of shooting macro and shot a whole bunch of different insects and flowers that we're going to see. So that was a fly. This was a bee that I captured. Chased that thing for about 20-30 minutes throughout the garden. And at one point, I'm 6 foot tall, so bending over and trying to find bugs in these flowers that's a challenge in and of itself. But I found this bug at one point, and I ended up taking several pictures of it that are in this presentation, and I just love the red orange around its carapace. And not really sure what kind of insect or bug this is. I think it's an aphid. Not really 100% sure. I still need to look that up and research it. And one of the things that I was working on was a little bit of symmetry, and there's a bridge over near the dog park. And Charlie and I went out, and I was working. This is shot with the Canon 14mm 1.4, and I was working on symmetry, trying to get this figured out. And one of the last pictures that I took of the week, lovely bride and I were actually in the swimming pool cleaning it up, and we have these little floaties out there, and on this one floaty with a blue underside was this ant. And I just thought it was really interesting seeing the ant, and actually in its maw it's eating something. So very interesting week. As I was just saying, a very interesting week here, shooting an eclectic variety of photographs throughout the week. And I am still working on trying to perfect the RF 100 macro lens, and I think I did pretty good near the end. I was using f13 and f11 because those seem to turn out the best. And so, as I stated during the introduction, this is Holly, she's 7 months old and stands probably just a little bit shorter than Charlie. She is very friendly, and she liked picking on Charlie, and Charlie would just take a paw and just bat her down to the ground, and she'd just stick her tongue out and wag. But this was a new dog for Charlie to meet this day, and they got along very well, and they've met since then at another park in another town. So here is a little human, as I call them, and the white and brown dog on the left-hand side at 9 o'clock is their dog. And I always get nervous when people bring in their children, those little boys about 4 or 5, because Charlie's still not accustomed to little humans and has a tendency of wanting to jump up. He didn't jump up on this little boy, and he's getting ready for the FIFA matches to start. Very fun time. So after Holly and that little boy and his dog took off, Charlie and I sat down on a bench. Charlie sat underneath it. He'd been playing with the other dogs. Not these two dogs. These two dogs stay up at the upper area. And this week, my purposeful challenge was angles. And I just liked how I was able to capture this gentleman with his head. You can see the Texas Longhorn hat, but I just love how I was able to capture the angles within this frame to draw his one attention into it. And also mentioned in the introduction is all of these pictures are on the Canon R5 Mark II, and at the very end I used the R5 for the very last picture. But I really wanted to work on my macro photography because I've been struggling with getting clear, crisp, sharp images. And so here you can see it is at f11, And I've used f11 and f13 throughout these macro shots. So in that last image, that was just a baked good I had in the house in the kitchen. I stopped and took a picture of that. Charlie and I walked over to this flower garden community plot, and while over there, Charlie was good. We walked, it was probably a half-mile walk over there, and I really wanted to try and capture and practice with the macro. We were there for about 3.5 hours. One of the first bugs I saw was this fly, and this is 5A, here's 5B. Still the same fly, different picture as it was moving around. As you can see, it was 8:30 in the morning, so there was still dew and condensation on the flowers. And I'd been chasing this fly around. It stayed on this one plant, but it was moving in all different directions. And I have a flash attached, and I also have a diffuser attached to the flash in order to overcome the sunbeams. And this picture, to me, is just, it reminds me of that movie, The Fly, because of the shadow that this fly is casting. So I didn't think I would have any shadows since I was using this diffuser to take these images, but this one came out. And so I just really liked how deep the shadow is within this image. And so I included this, and this is 5C. And so after the fly, you can see now it's now 8:40. So we spent about 15 minutes chasing that fly around and capturing those different images. And the community garden area, it's probably about a half an acre. It's not very large, but there were these really pretty flowers over along one of the borders. And Charlie and I moseyed on over there. And I just liked how I was able to capture the pistil here in the center of that. And moving around to another flower, there was probably about 15, 20 of these red flowers there. I found this bee. Then I just loved how I was able to capture the pollen sac on the leg of that bee as it moved in and out of the different flowers. And I was pretty close. I was probably all of maybe 8 inches away. The minimum focal distance for the RF 100 macro is 6 inches, but that's actually measured from the center of the camera, not from the end of the lens. So the lens is about 5.5 inches. And I took off the lens hood because I found that I was having issues focusing. So taking off the lens hood and just putting my finger down near the end where the barrel's at helped me balance the flash and the diffuser that was attached to the camera for this photo session. And I just loved how this image right here, just beautiful. And as I mentioned in the introduction, I'm 6 foot tall, so bending over and trying to find little bitty things, this thing right here, this spider, is probably half the size of a dime, if even that. And I had just seen some webbing in between some of the flowers and just stood there and stared around, and I finally saw this spider, and it was actually moving around, so a little challenging. And I wasn't sure if I was a success or not in capturing this spider, but I did. So I am up to slide 9. This is 9A, 9B, and 9C will follow. It's all the same insect that I was chasing around on top of this plant. And I just was, one, I wasn't sure if I was capturing or not. At this point, it's almost 9 o'clock. The sun's up a little bit higher, trying to see through that little LCD screen on the back. And I should have attached my external monitor, but I can't do that when I have the flash attached. So I had chased him around, and then evidently he had a partner. And don't want to make this X-rated, so I included this picture because there were some other pictures that looked more questionable. I was just really surprised that I was able to capture both of them here. Just really interesting bugs. I have no idea. I tried looking them up on the internet, still no idea. So we're just going to call them the unknown bugs that were having fun. And so here that other bug had walked away, and now it is 9 o'clock. So I've been out here probably for about 15 minutes chasing these bugs around. And once again, just finding the bugs was a challenge in itself. So there would be some periods like 15, 20 minutes walking around, moving things around, and I couldn't find anything. So when I did find something, I got very excited and really took a lot of pictures. So here is image 10. Yes, it's just another fly, but I thought this one was very unique. The plant that it was sitting on and the background that it presented. So I tried to do some focus stacking and was unsuccessful. Just one little twitch and movement, and it just didn't work. Probably need to use a higher shutter speed, but I did like that I was using f13, and I really got most of the insects into focus just using f13. And in this image here, I was actually just focusing on the flower because I just loved how these little yellow petals were inside the bigger pink petals. And this moth, butterfly, not sure what type of insects it actually is, but it came fluttering by and it was wandering around on top of this flower, and probably shot maybe 100, 150 pictures of it. Once again, just really excited. Love this pose on the flower. And this was a really interesting flower or batch of flowers that were out there. And this is the only image with really no insects on it. I just loved how these tentacles were reaching up. And to me, when I look at this picture, it looks like an undersea plant with those tentacles slowly moving in the breeze. I was able to do really good at, I was stuck at 1/200 because I was using the flash. But I do like how they froze motion in this image. So now it's 9:12. Charlie and I have moved around. This is a daylily, and I had seen just a few bees around. Really surprised there are not more bees, but once again, I just loved how I was able to capture that pollen sac that it builds on its legs. I've never seen them moving the pollen to the legs. I'm not sure how it gets attached, but I just really love how I was able to capture this. Very sharp, in my opinion, with that RF100 macro. So this is image 14A, and 14B, of course, is going to follow. I edited 14B, and I just loved how clear and crisp this was. And so this is the already zoomed in, and now double zoomed in, image of a ladybug. And honestly, this is the first time I have ever captured a ladybug with my cameras out in nature. So I think this was a very successful capture. And here is the environment. This is the environmental shot. This is not cropped other than being cropped to 9:16, so it fits into YouTube. Could have done any other size crop, but keep it at 9:16 so it fills the screen. But this is the whole, of course, the environmental shot of the whole area that the ladybug was in before I zoomed in for the previous picture of 14A. And I was just really happy to capture this. And so I've got 4 pictures, 15A, B, C, and D of this. Some call it a green stink bug, and then it's got a Latin name. I couldn't really get a definitive answer when looking this up. And so this stink bug was crawling around on this purple plant, and I chased it around for about 10-15 minutes and probably shot over 200 frames. Never sure when, like I said, I'm using the R5 Mark II. I've got the flash, I've got the diffuser, and I'm bending over because I'm all of maybe a foot off the ground here. Yeah, I was too high up to get down on my knees, but too low to do anything else. So got this thing, like I said, I had the hood off of the RF100 so that I could put my fingers out there to help balance this rig because it gets pretty heavy. But I got this side profile. And again, I tried to do some focus stacking, but being limited to 1/200. When I put 4 or 5 images together, I ended up with 4 or 5 different legs, 4 or 5 different heads. And like this one, this is just a single image. So I don't know where its other, let's just call it a whisker, that long thing that's coming down off its head down to 6 o'clock. I'm not, what are they called? Entomologist? People who study bugs. So I'm not really sure if he's supposed to have 2 or 1, but here again, side profile, I only see 1. I don't know what they use these for. Maybe he was in a fight or just fell off. Once again, I just loved how I was able to capture this with the clarity. So you can see I used F13, and once again, I think I was very successful. I'm sure there's professionals out there that would disagree with me, but for being an amateur, I really like how this turned out. So after Charlie and I finished shooting the green stink bug with the orange stripes, we sat down under a pagoda out there for about 5-10 minutes. And we were walking back, and Charlie has been chasing lizards for the last couple of weeks every time we go out to various parks and everything. He might have walked all of a foot away from this lizard that was perched on top of some sand inside of a flower bed, and he walked right by this, and it just caught my eye, so I stopped and captured this. So if you've been counting or not counting, we have this image and 2 more insect images that I'm going to show you. 3 more images, but the next one is all of the same. But once again, this is a different butterfly. Could be the same butterfly, don't know. But he came back, or it came back, and landed right near where I was at. So shifted from the lizard over to this image, and now it's 9:45 almost, so had a good time capturing this one. So here in 18A, B, and C is all of the same type of insect. And I tried looking this up. I thought it was some type of aphid, but I got negative results when I looked that up. It took me to 2 different bug guides. But this insect was probably about the size of the head of a pin. And once again, I was just moving things around because I was getting ready to head home. And I picked this leaf up. So this is on the underside of a leaf. That pretty broad leaf. Leaf was probably about 8 or 10 inches underneath. So it had these big veins. And I saw this. I had no idea. All it was just a little speck on the screen. And looking through the viewfinder. So I was like, I'm not sure if I'm capturing this or not. This one's interesting. So it's still the same bug. But here at the 11 o'clock position, you can see an ant decided to crawl in through my frame and participate in the opportunity to be photographed. So once again, a very interesting insect. I have no idea what it is. If you do know what it is and want to put that in the comments, I'd really appreciate it so I can learn something new, because there's just too many bugs. And so this image here, we were out at the dog park and had the camera and gear with me and didn't have an opportunity. No new dogs came up. Actually, no other dogs. Charlie and I spent an hour and a half. Charlie spent it by himself. So we decided to go for a walk, and there's this bridge. And I had purposely brought the Canon 14 millimeter 1.4, and I really wanted to try and practice some symmetry here underneath the bridge. I did catch a couple images with people, though I did not include those. But I think it turned out pretty well. And this is the last image for this week's roll of 24. It says it's image 20, but we know we're well past it. We actually had 33 images this week. But Lovely Bride and I were in the swimming pool, and we were cleaning up, and we have these floaties, and this ant was on the floaty. And if you look really close at the mouth, you can see that this ant, which is really small, it's a red fire ant, is eating something else that it has picked up off this floaty. Very interesting. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's roll of 24 for the week of 1 June through 6 June 2026. If you did enjoy this presentation, please consider subscribing and hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you all again next Wednesday. Thank you for showing.